Alright, today I wanted to take a look at the Commodore Magazine from February 1987. And I was actually a subscriber of Commodore Magazine back then. This isn't my original copy. I'm not sure if I kept the subscription all the way to 87. But I find it interesting to go back and look at these old magazines and all the advertising that's in there, and you can look at all the programs and things that at the time the Commodore was fairly new, and there are a lot of fledgling companies out there that were writing like these types of software, word processors and spreadsheet database programs. And this right here, this one supports the GEOS operating system on the 128, I believe. And anyway, yeah, I was taking a look at this magazine and just reading through it, and there's a few programs that I wanted to discuss that, you know, I always love reading these, looking at the advertising, and then also checking out the articles and the type-in programs. And when you're first learning a program, sometimes it's fun to go in and type those programs in. Although it can be time consuming, and nowadays it's possible to find a lot of these programs already typed. Somebody already typed them in or made copies of them, the disk versions, so that you don't really have to type them in. But you know, if the program's short enough, I think it's a fun exercise. So as a part of this Commodore magazine, it has a lot of reviews in it of different software packages, and Bob's Term Pro 128, and so we're talking Commodore 64 and 128. And there's a nice program in here that really showcases what the Commodore 128 can do, and it's called I Am the C128. And I went looking for this program. I was able to find it on a forum somewhere. I'll post the link at the bottom of this video, and it's really neat. It's like a programming tutorial. It's all about BASIC and the expanded features of the Commodore 128, and there's so many things you can do with it in BASIC that you simply couldn't do on the Commodore 64. And that was one of the things I found fascinating about the 128. You could draw circles and ellipses and boxes and fill them with one command often, and then you could also play sounds, and there's so many things that you could do so much easier on the Commodore 128 that you had to resort to assembly language programming on the Commodore 64 to accomplish something similar or close to achieve the same effect. So I might do a separate kind of a play video, a demonstration, but on a separate video, because although I would like to show it off on this video, it takes a long time to go through. It's a tutorial, it's instructional, and it shows us a lot of different screens, and there's a lot of different load times, so it takes quite a while to go through it. But let's jump ahead to the type-in programs. So in this magazine, in this edition, we start with a Visi calculator for the Commodore 64. There's a nice type-in program for that. And then the next one is Magic Metronome for the Commodore 64. Use your Commodore 64 as a metronome. I remember when I first saw these Okadata printers that they're advertising here, just how amazing I thought they were, and I was like, I want one of those so badly. But reality was that I was lucky I even had the Commodore 64. I didn't have enough money to be able to buy a printer, a nice printer, especially like that. All right, skipping ahead to page 98, there was a few type-in programs that I skipped, but I wanted to highlight Gobblers Revenge right here for the Commodore 64, which was a type-in BASIC program done 100% in BASIC, I believe. And, you know, I'll show a kind of a video of it playing in the background here, but it's basically like a Pac-Man type of a clone, but done in BASIC, really short, not too ridiculously complicated or anything, and it's a fun little game. And then what was neat about it was that I found a copy of this, I didn't have to type it in, I found a copy of it on the GameBase64 website, I believe. So I was able to download it from there, and I'll put the link in the description of the video. The other thing I found striking about Gobbler's Revenge is the maze that it draws looks familiar, you know, so I don't think I saw this, I ever saw this program. I don't think I took inspiration from it, but it basically uses the same idea I used for the Pac clone program that I worked on this channel. But and so, you know, it just shows you what the Commodore 64 is capable, or you know, what it can do with a short BASIC program. I remember typing these in, all those data statements, and having to get them just right. And then the next one I wanted to show off was Wheel for the Commodore 64. And this is a basic Wheel of Fortune kind of game that's not real complicated, but it was all done in BASIC. It also, I found a copy of it on the GameBase64 website, and I'll place a link in the description. What it reminded me of, and the reason why I wanted to highlight it, was when I had my Commodore 128 back in the 80s, I wrote a Wheel of Fortune program, which unfortunately I've lost, but I had written a game in BASIC using the 128 commands to draw the screen, and then using sprites to kind of animate the wheel when it was spinning. And this takes me back to that, and I had to think about how to do all the categories, and it's fun to try to develop a program, especially a simple one. And it teaches you you work through how to program it and all the design elements that you have to take into consideration. And that's the reason why I just wanted to highlight the wheel for the Commodore 64. And it's a short type-in program as well. And certainly, and that's not the only programs that were in this book. There was quite a few others, or several others. And what I like about this particular book is that it does have programs for the Commodore 128 as well. So anyway, I just wanted to point out a couple of the programs that were in the Commodore Magazine, Commodore 64/128 personal magazine. And I think it's a throwback, and it brings back a lot of memories. And back then the Amiga was just coming out. It was very expensive for for under $2,000, you know, that's a lot of money now. So imagine how much money that was back then. But I remember this Sphinx animation, or this drawing, and just thinking, wow, that is so amazing. I could back then the graphics on the Commodore 64/128 were the resolution wasn't even capable of generating some stuff like this. So when you saw those types of things, you were blown away by it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you later.